Alright, guys, here comes the highly anticipated top 10 films of the year. This time for 2012. And what I want to say first, before I get into the actual films, is there were a lot of good films this year, but to me there were not a lot of great films. So I went to the theater being entertained by a lot of them. Usually when I say it's a good film, it's about a 3 out of 4 star film. And I felt that there were a lot of them that were really good, but not a lot that really, jumped out at me as being absolutely fabulous for whatever reason. So that was kind of the year I felt that 2012 was. Now these films rose above the good category and were either very good or great. What's different about this list, and some of you may be disappointed about this, but there is not going to be a number one film that ranks above all others. I'm actually doing this in alphabetical order because these are all really good films, and there was not one that outshined the others. There are some on the list that I like better than others, I will admit, but there was not one that I could say that beat all the other films. In their own way and in just whatever particular mood I'm in, so I might pick one of these films as the best on the list. It just depends what I'm in the mood for, what kind of genre I have a taste for. It all depends. So, wanted to give that little background before I got into the films. Okay, here we go in alphabetical order. Okay, and the first one on the list is Argo. Now, this won the Best Picture for 2012, so a lot of people agreed with me that it was a very good film. And if you haven't seen this one, I'll read the description here. It's a dramatization of the 1980 joint CIA-Canadian secret operation to extract 6 fugitive American diplomatic personnel out of revolutionary Iran. Now, that might not seem very accessible to a lot of different people, but it really was, and it captured my attention because I knew vaguely of the story of the 1979 hostage crisis, and I remember that being an important part of American history. It was just several years before I was born, and I remember the hostages were finally released when Ronald Reagan was actually in office, and that was kind of the first major victory for him. But beyond that, I didn't know the specific story of Argo. So I really felt a lot of suspense in this film of how to rescue some of these people. And what they do is they actually pretend to be shooting a film to get into Iran. That's kind of the premise. And I'm not going to spoil it whether they do get them out or not, because this isn't just the entire story that they're talking about. This is a very specific incident about this whole Iran crisis. So that's all I'll say for now, but definitely rent Argo. As I said, it won Best Picture, and it's definitely worth your money. Some great suspense in this film. Alright, now for a completely different type of film. This one is called Bernie, and this is a Jack Black film, and a very unique Jack Black film, not one that I had seen him in before. It's about it takes place in small town Texas, and it's about a local mortician that everybody in the town just loves and gets along with. And, he's considered the nicest guy of the town, and he's a big friend. And then, all of a sudden, he's accused of murder. And the question is, how could a friendly guy like this be accused of murder, and is he guilty? And who did he kill? You'll find out by watching this film. And it's actually based on a true story, so that I was actually dumbfounded by that. But this is a very unique character and a very unique guy, and it just captivated me. There's some really hilarious parts. There's some great dramatic parts. The people in the town are something else too. So it's just a wonderful film, and a lot of people, I am willing to bet, have not seen this. So rent it or get it on Netflix, wherever you can find it, because this is kind of a hidden gem that was out there in 2012. Alright, next we have Cloud Atlas, and this was an epic length film. I think it was about 3 hours or so. But it had an all-star cast with Tom Hanks, Halle Berry, Hugh Grant, and a handful of other faces that you'll recognize too. And I'll read the description for this one. It says, it's an exploration of how the actions of individual lives impact one another in the past, present, and future, as one soul is shaped from a killer into a hero, and an act of kindness ripples across centuries to inspire a revolution. And what's interesting about this film is some of the actors play multiple roles in multiple time periods, and it really does connect these characters through the centuries, as the description read. It sounds kind of complicated, and it is a thinker, but it is wonderfully done, and the special effects are incredible. Especially in the future, some of those scenes are very sci-fi-ish and are well done. But in the past, every period just looks perfect, and I really enjoyed this film. You know, it's a longer film, but it's definitely worth your time. So I would definitely rent this one as well. One of my favorites this year. Next we have End of Watch, and I saw this after it came onto DVD, but I'm glad I did before I made this list, because this was very well done. The description: shot documentary style, this film follows the daily grind of two young police officers in LA who are partners and friends, and what happens when they meet criminal forces greater than themselves. And it really is documentary style. Jake Gyllenhaal's character is actually carrying around a camera, and he says it's for one of the classes that he's taking. And he's basically showing everybody his exploits with his partner, as it's kind of like a cop style, I guess you could say. And I really enjoyed it because it's got that gritty feel and that realistic feel. But believe me, this is not your everyday cops who are pulling people over for traffic tickets. This is a section of Los Angeles where they get into some really nasty stuff. And it's one of the best cop movies I've seen in a long time, and I would definitely encourage you to watch this. Great performances too by the leads, Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena. Our next film is Flight, and this was a film that was highlighted near the end of 2012, and Denzel Washington was nominated for an Academy Award for this one, did not win, and he did a great job with the film, but I don't think he himself was what made the film great. I think a lot of great actors could have played the role he did, but this is the description. An airline pilot saves a flight from crashing, but an investigation into the malfunctions reveals something troubling. And I'm not giving anything away by saying that it reveals that he is an alcoholic and was drinking while he was intoxicated while he was flying the plane. So that's the story about just the investigation into that. And the criticism I heard about this movie before I saw it was that the beginning and the end were great, and then in the middle it was kind of lagging, and it's a good time to go out into the theater lobby and buy some popcorn and drinks. But I felt like that was a very unfair criticism, because I felt captivated the whole time. I was invested into learning about this character and just the way he tries his best to not be an alcoholic, but fails because he tries to do it on his own strength and wants to contain the problem himself. And so many of us, through addictions that we may have, we try to do this all on our own, and he is failing at that because of that. So the question is, will he be able to ask for help, or will he try to stick it out on his own and try to get past all these accusations and investigations that are going on? So great film, check it out. Alright, the next one is Hope Springs, After 30 years of marriage, a middle-aged couple attends an intense week-long counseling session to work on their relationship. And this movie is headed by the two leads of Tommy Lee Jones and Meryl Streep, two great veteran actors. And this one I unexpectedly really, really loved. It's hard to put into words exactly why. I think a big reason is I think Tommy Lee Jones was so perfect for the role he played. There's been lots of reports that Tommy Lee Jones has not been the nicest of guys to the media. He's very aloof and not very warm at all to them. And I could see him in his personal life kind of being this way. I'm sure he's a lot nicer to the people he's close with in his private life, but I could see this really well in the way he treats his wife. They get along really well, but the romance has died, and it's so bad that they're sleeping in different bedrooms. So they're just kind of comfortable in their routine, and Meryl Streep one day says she wants something more. And I love that Steve Carell's in this movie, and he plays it straight, and he is actually the counselor in this movie. And there's some really funny moments, some kind of embarrassing moments. I actually saw this in a theater with everybody was over 60 years old, and it was just me and my girlfriend who were the only ones besides that. But it was a fun movie and really hit home for me too. Hope Springs, great movie. Next we have Les Miserables, which was another movie that I saw very late in 2000 for the 2012 year. And I'm glad I did. I had actually never seen any versions of this musical before. And I have to tell you, I loved the music. It was incredible. And some very emotional scenes. I remember a couple of years ago watching Toy Story 3, and that was another unexpected movie where at the end I felt, my eyes welling up a little bit. I didn't completely go, but I felt it welling up a little bit, and I felt the same near the end of this movie too. And there's also a great scene with the priest with just a wonderful scene of forgiveness and mercy near the beginning of the film that is wonderful. So great performances by everybody. Les Miserables, check that one out. A further investigation into the arrest of three teenagers convicted of killing 3 young boys in Arkansas who spent nearly 20 years in prison before being released after new DNA evidence indicated they may be innocent. And this is a documentary that I had never heard of and never had seen the other 2 films, and I was just enthralled in the story of these guys who obviously did not do it, but the town is completely against them and bent on thinking that they're involved in some cult ritual, and it's really because they look different. But this is a wonderful film, and you have to check this out. It's on DVD. It wasn't in a lot of theaters. It premiered on HBO actually, but definitely check this one out. Paradise Lost 3: Purgatory. A fisheries expert is approached by a consultant to help realize a sheik's vision of bringing the sport of fly fishing to the desert and embarks on an upstream journey of faith and fish to prove the impossible is possible. And this is another one that snuck into theaters and snuck out. Didn't get a lot of public attention, but a great film about somebody who has faith and a dream to make something happen. And I love those types of movies where everybody else says this is impossible to do, but this guy says, no, I'm going to do it, and he makes it happen. Wonderful, inspiring tale about faith, and there's also a great romance in the story. Love Emily Blunt, as always, in her films. And finally, 2 South Africans set out to discover what happened to their unlikely musical hero, the mysterious 1970s rock and roller Rodriguez, in the film Searching for Sugarman, another great documentary about an artist who was great but did not do well commercially and kind of disappeared. He supposedly died in the 1970s, and trying to figure out what happened to this man. A great film, and that's the last of my top 10 films of the year. Thanks for watching this, and if you haven't seen any of these films, be sure to rent it and check it out. They're all great picks. Thanks for watching, guys.